Welcome to the Signifying Donkey Show, ladies and gentlemen. I have a good friend joining me today, Mr. Eric Thompson. How are you today, Eric?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. One of the reasons that I asked you to come on to the show is because I met you years ago, over 20 years ago. We met on the job, and we've become very good friends. And I think a lot of the conversations that we had when we worked together and in between, working on, various issues that we had to work on, some of those conversations used to really blow my mind. So one of the things that was interesting to me was I remember we were talking about the dynamics of business and how to run a company, and you were telling me about patents and all these different things. And I remember asking you, so Eric, where did you go to college? And you responded, oh, I never went to college. And I remember being amazed that you had that level of knowledge, especially considering this was before the internet, and and to be able to articulate so many different things about business, and it just blew my mind. So one of the things that I'd like for you to discuss today is telling the audience a little bit about your story. Where you grew up, and where you went to high school.
Well, grew up in VA, went to high school in Herndon. Basically, the similar story to most, people from our culture. Family didn't have much. You had to figure out things yourself and pretty much had to grow up very fast. Unlike now, how we kind of baby our children and help them every single step for every single thing. When you were coming up and I was coming up, we didn't have that. We had to grow up fast, get with it, get on it. So, that's the foundation of my mindset of being independent.
Hmm. That's interesting. So, in terms of your career trajectory and how that started coming out of high school, because I'm gonna tell you, I hate to sound like a hater right now, but when I found out that you hadn't gone to college, and then I was looking at my student loan payments, and you were sitting right next to me, I felt like a fool. I said, "Oh man, I've been had. I've been duped by the system."
That's funny.
So, on a serious note,
Mhm.
how did you end up in the field of telecommunications? Without having gone to college.
Actually, it's a true saying. It's not about what you know, it's who you know. I just knew all the right people and I was able to get plugged in. But even though someone watches out for you, you must perform. So you have to learn about the network,
Facts.
understand it, and establish your reputation as a solid person that knows the network and is dependable. Just off of those two, that can sometimes put you in rooms that you might not be qualified for on paper.
Wow. Wow. I like that. I like that. So, one of the things that we used to discuss when we were sitting and having serious conversations from time to time when we worked together were some of the challenges in trying to start a business. I know we both have had experience with trying to get a business off the ground and work a job at the same time. One of the things I wanted to ask you today, do you think that that's a good path until you're in a position to be a full-time entrepreneur? Do you think that's what most people should consider? Or do you think a person should position themselves to jump right out there and be 100% entrepreneur from day one?
Well, there's two things. You have to decide if you're happy with what you're doing as a career, because some people are. Some people are happy whether they make lots of money or not. Some people are actually happy with what they do. With the business, you have to ask yourself, are you ready for this hassle? Are you ready for this nightmare? Is this what you really want to do? Do you have money to waste? Do you have money to put a match to? Once you establish these questions, that will determine what your next step is.
Wow, man, I see it. Now you're talking to the boss, the big the adult, decisions, the real decisions that come into play. And one of the things I did, I checked out an article. It was a Forbes article about the pros and cons of being an employee versus being an entrepreneur. And it pointed out some very interesting things. Like there are some pros to working a job, such as you'll have structure. And you've already mentioned, hustle, knowing what to do, having some savvy understanding, because it takes sophistication to run a business.
Absolutely.
So if you're talking about, I'm going to empty my 401k and quit my job so I can get away from my boss, and you have, and let's say we're talking about not you or me, but someone that maybe has been to college but maybe hasn't majored in business. They may be majored in English, so they may not know marketing or accounting or taxes or legal requirements. You're also, when you run a business, if you're a sole proprietor, you have to be a one person human resources department if you're going to bring in contractors or employees at some point. So there's a lot that goes into running a business, and like you said, drive, motivation, and sophistication. So maybe the way to go is to, instead of quitting your job, maybe the way to go is to methodically plan out how you're going to do what you're going to do, what business works for you, what be a good business to go into, and ease your way in. And then when the time is right, then that's when you could possibly leave your job. Or what do you think? Or do you think maybe the best of both worlds, do both, and then and until you're in a position to become a full-time entrepreneur?
Wow, that's a difficult question because it's so delicate. You don't want to give someone the wrong information. For me, I use a spiritual foundation. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. So I
Hey,
kind of, I make sure that I consult him before I make any moves because I don't know anything. I'm going to probably make wrong
amen,
moves,
brother.
but you
Amen.
know, if you have a foundation where you can draw from for knowledge and other things that are beyond our control, because I mean, let's face it, business is something that's beyond your control. You can't control it. If you could, everyone would make a business, everyone would make money. So there's a lot of nuances that people don't understand that you have no control over. So that's a very delicate question that's hard to answer. It's just sometimes in your spirit, you know that I'm doing the right thing. Just like this show, okay? When you first started, you're a natural. This is what you do. You're great at it. It's just your thing. It's going to explode. And we know this, and it was something in you that told you to do that. Am I not correct?
Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the reason I'm still plugging away is because I do have a feeling, and it's kind of like what you just said. It's not just about my intellect. It's a divine. There's a divine calling here, because this isn't about me, making money and I'm trying to figure out how I can hustle with this real quick. This is purely about disseminating information and becoming a credible source of information to a point where at some point, yeah, maybe I can monetize this show, but I'm gonna keep going with it because I just like delivering the information. So one of the things that you just mentioned, and the article I read in Forbes, it points out that when you are an entrepreneur, there are some pros to being an entrepreneur, full-time entrepreneur. You have freedom, you have independence, but that freedom, just like someone working from home, when you're working your job, that freedom can be just enough rope to hang yourself sometimes.
Right.
Takes an extreme, and I've had a benefit of, my parents. I watched them work as entrepreneurs and pay for a farm so they were 20 years and went through various changes in the sector they were in. There were laws that were changed that affected what they could charge and affected their bottom line and their profit margin. And I saw my dad and mom working in the basement on weekends, late at night, doing the bookkeeping, doing the accounting. And so I was never one that was going to be like, okay, I'm going to be quick to quit my job and try to pay my mortgage or my bills, with the revenue I'm bringing in from a business, because I saw firsthand how hard it is to sustain that level of income.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that's great about a job. And I think you would agree, a regular paycheck is something that you can leverage to do a lot of different things, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I agree with that. And especially if you need just a little bit of money to invest, because now with the internet, you don't necessarily need $1 million or $5 million or $10 million like with the brick and mortar business. So you can take money that you earn from your job, save it, and then invest it, and everything still goes smoothly.
And case in point, I'll share this with the audience. I haven't invested a dime in the significant. Well, that's not true. The logo. I did invest in the logo. I didn't create the logo. As a matter of fact, you hooked me up with a graphic artist through, I think, is it Fiverr?
Yeah,
Through
absolutely.
Fiverr. And she is excellent. And so I was so glad that you. And speaking of that, that's what I wanted to get to before I waste any time, get sidetracked. Networking etiquette and how you and I have over the years just shared different tips with each other, different vendors, different people we can use, whether it's web development or
Right.
someone who's help us with develop an app and things like that. You made some great points about networking etiquette, and I was hoping you would share some of those suggestions with the audience and maybe help some people polish their networking game a little bit.
Well, when you're building your network, you have to be intentional, you have to be specific. When you are building your network, you can't just share it with anyone. You can't give someone your closest connection and then they call them 500 times. And now not only is that connection ruined for them, but it's ruined for you also. You have to use your connections sparingly. You don't call someone every day for advice or can you help me with this? Because I mean, the honest truth is no one wants to help you when they know you need help. When you're doing great, everyone wants to help you. So you
Wow.
have to be very strategic with building connections and sharing connections.
Mm, that's good, man. That's good advice. And I'll piggyback on that. One of the things that we discussed when I met with you the other day was to that point, and it happened to me yesterday. A person that's very talented followed me on Instagram. And because he's so talented, I immediately looked at his page, saw his work, and I said, "Oh, this is a graphic artist I might want to work with in the future." So I followed him back.
Absolutely.
First thing he does is send me, "Hey, I want to work with you. We should collaborate." And it was about a 3-paragraph message. And one of the things I was telling you the other day is like, I don't know if it's an age thing, a generational thing, but let me use, forgive me for a second as I digress, but allow me to use an analogy. Like if you were interested in someone and wanted to date someone, you wouldn't walk up to that person and kiss them on the cheek. You would ask them their name, you would have a conversation with them, and give them the respect of getting to know them first before you touch them. So let me carry that over to networking. It's like, hey, if you follow me and I follow you back, that doesn't mean it's time for us to do business.
Right.
Take a second, get to know me, ask me what I'm doing, allow me to ask you what you do, and maybe not even make a proposition that first time we communicate. And it's just, I'm not saying you need to be slick or you need to come from angles and kick game, but there's levels to this, man. And that's the thing that frustrates me more than anything else is that inability to be patient and foster a relationship first before you start trying to see how we can do business together.
But people are usually using AI. So when you friend them back and then instantly, hey, this is me. Hi, here's my entire life story. That's AI. And then when you respond back, it will respond back according to your answer. And you're not talking to the person, it's just AI.
Oh my God. See, I've tried to become more sophisticated where AI is concerned, but man, as soon as you said that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And normally I don't follow people back unless I see some reason, some value in doing so. Because before I used to follow people back because I thought it was the polite thing to do. But now when you start talking about bots and cybersecurity, you bring up a great point. I think we all have to do a better job of filtering and making sure we're not just inviting anybody into our network.
That's right.
So but that's a very interesting point, and I think it's something that we all should give more consideration to, that AI factor. And I'm gonna tell you something. There's no shame in my game. So when people approach me, I say, look, right now my budget is $0. That's how like I just said earlier, I spent, invested some money in my logo. But for anyone who's interested in doing a YouTube channel or a podcast or something along those lines, you can get started. If you have a cell phone and you just set up a YouTube account. And for me, it was a great way for me to just practice and just experiment and even just get an idea. Is this something I even want to do before I invest a significant amount of money in it? And now that things are kind of taking off and I'm getting some positive feedback, I feel better about making an investment.
Right. You've definitely made some investments. Look at this one.
Hey, look, I love that shirt. And, I appreciate your support. And I need to have you back on the show, because one of the things that I would like to get into with you is like when the money starts coming in and starts hitting the account and you start seeing some success. I remember the other day we discussed a funding account.
Right.
And, a way to disperse funds to our loved ones when things get good, so we can do that in an orderly fashion. I want to bring you back onto the show, and we're going to discuss that in detail, ways that we can share our wealth and our, good fortunes and our blessings with our loved ones in such a way that it's peaceful and it's not intrusive.
Right.
So thank you so much, Eric, man. It was a blessing having you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And, it's always good to have someone that you've known for years. I trust you and I trust your judgment. And I just appreciate your support as I go down this road, this journey with the Signifying Donkey Show.
I appreciate that. Can I say one thing before I go? First of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for you. I'm happy for you. When I first saw that logo, sometimes there's just this thing. When I saw it, I knew, I was like, this is right. That feeling. So for your audience, I just want people to know that no matter what you're thinking about doing, because everyone's thinking about doing something, it's just that they're not doing it. Whatever you have, try it. Give it a try. You can't lose. Some guy created a pet rock and made millions of dollars. All of us would have laughed at this guy. We would have told him he was nuts. And he ended up being a millionaire. So no matter how crazy your idea may seem, do it. That's it.
Sir. Yes, sir. You know what? I'm glad you said that. And that's how we should end this show, is don't quit your job. If you have a dream, put it down on paper, start mapping out a plan, how you can get there, get your tax ID, open up a bank account, buy your first laptop, just get started.
Absolutely.
And do it the right way so that you can write everything off and you can get the proper, credits when you do your taxes. So it's been another successful episode of the Signifying Donkey Show. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. And don't forget, if you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe. Peace in the Middle East.
It's Juneteenth, release me from this precinct. Everybody in here looks just like me. Ain't nothing changed, still out here in the range, doing things you can't explain, so you caught out in the rain. Where's your bail money? Get out of jail money. Spent every cent you made, most hustlers fail money. When will you learn? You said it was your turn. Fed search your crib, so now you're plug concerned. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Your lawyer working for the state, so you about to do a dime. The business I conduct demands a legal occupation. My dreams and my bread are the only things I'm chasing. Success, shrimp, and lobster are the only things I'm tasting. My family taught me well, said I'd rule the world with patience. Juneteenth, much more than a day. Juneteenth, the day they freed the slaves. Got us back in work, but we used to bag cotton. Where's our next Malcolm? We need our next Martin.
Dedicated to those that never got the Declaration. Come on. Kept people as slaves even after the emancipation. Yeah. Don't know how they allowed it. What? In darkness it was shrouded. What? 2.5 years until Galveston heard about it. Woo. Striving even if they aren't denying opportunities. tell their version. We were all just happy Negroes. Banning all these books cause it offended all their egos. First they went for him, and then